Virgo, stop what you are doing right now. Whatever task has your attention, whatever list is running in your head, whatever concern has been occupying the analytical mind, that never fully stops working. Even when you are not explicitly directing it toward any particular problem, stop and receive this, because what I am about to tell you deserves your full presence, not the partial presence of someone who is listening while also processing 17 other things simultaneously. Your full presence for exactly the length of this message. Congratulations. You have been approved. Welcome. And let me tell you everything that means. I want to start by saying something about the word approved, because it is doing a lot of work in this message, and I want to make sure it is doing all of it rather than only part of it. Approved, in the literal and most immediate sense, means that something you applied for or requested or hoped for or worked toward has been evaluated by whatever process evaluates such things, and the evaluation has come back in your favor. The answer is yes. The decision is made, and the making of it has landed on the side that you were hoping it would land on. That is the literal meaning. And depending on where you are in your life right now, that literal meaning may apply to something very specific: a loan, a position, a home, a program, a proposal, something you put yourself forward for and waited on with the particular tension of someone who has done everything in their power to make the outcome favorable and is now at the mercy of a decision that belongs to someone else in a process they cannot control or influence any further than they already have. That tension is resolving in the most favorable possible direction. The yes is coming or has already arrived, depending on when you are watching this. But approved also means something deeper, something that goes beyond the specific application or request or whatever the literal thing is. That is getting its yes in this season. And I want to speak to the deeper meaning, because I think it is equally important for where you are right now and what you most need to receive. You have been approved in the larger sense of someone whose consistent effort and consistent showing up and consistent commitment to doing things correctly, even when correctly is more demanding than the convenient alternative, has been recognized by something larger than any single decision maker or any single approval process. The universe has been watching how you have been operating in the season that led to this moment, and the watching has produced an assessment that says this person is ready. This person has done what was needed. This person deserves what they have been working toward. And the door that needed to open is opening. I want to speak now specifically to Virgo about what this approval means in the context of who Virgo is and how Virgo operates, because I think the specific qualities of this sign are directly relevant to understanding why the approval is happening. Now, in this form, after what has been a particular kind of season, for this particular sign, Virgo works in the specific and unperformed way of someone for whom the work is not primarily about the recognition it produces, but about the standards it meets, internal standards that are higher than what most external observers would require or even notice when they are and are not being met. Virgo works to the standard that Virgo has set for itself, which is a higher standard than almost any external authority would set. For anyone in any situation, and that standard, while sometimes producing the specific Virgo exhaustion of someone who is always measuring their output against a bar that does not lower, regardless of how difficult the circumstances, also produces something that cannot be faked or manufactured or arrived at through any path other than the one Virgo has been taking, which is the path of genuine and sustained effort over time towards something real. That something real is what the approval is recognizing. I want to tell you what the celebration looks like because the title says, "Get ready to celebrate." And I want to describe what celebrating means for a Virgo who does not always find it natural to stop and mark the moment before moving immediately to the next thing on the list that is already forming, even before the current thing has been fully received. Celebrating means stopping, actually stopping for long enough to feel what it feels like to have worked towards something for whatever time you have been working toward this, and to have the work produce the outcome you were working toward in the form you were hoping for, or something close enough to that form to count as the arrival of what was being built toward. That feeling is worth stopping for, not rushing through. On the way to the next thing, that immediately positions itself as the new priority. The moment the previous priority has been achieved in the very Virgo way of someone who is so oriented toward improvement and forward movement that the present achievement can become invisible almost immediately. In the light of what has not yet been achieved, but that is already on the horizon as the next objective, do not do that. Not yet. Not before you have given this arrival its full moment in your full presence. Whew. I want to speak now about what was required to arrive here, because I think acknowledging it specifically and honestly is part of what the celebration should contain, rather than the quick summary that moves past the difficulty of the getting here too quickly to really honor it. It required persistence, the kind that shows up even when the showing up does not immediately produce visible results, the kind that continues. When the evidence for continuing is less than the evidence for stopping, would be if you were only reading the surface of what was happening rather than the deeper layer. That required faith to keep trusting. When the surface was not confirming that what was being built was building toward anything real, it required precision, the specifically Virgo precision of someone who does not cut corners. Even when cutting corners would produce a result that is good enough for everyone else's standard, but not for the internal standard. That, Virgo, applies to its own output, regardless of what others would accept in its place. And it required something that does not always come easily. To a sign that is as self-critical as Virgo, it required belief in your own worthiness of the thing you were applying for, or requesting, or hoping for, or building toward. Despite the Virgo tendency to identify every possible inadequacy, in the case you are making for yourself, or in the preparation you have done, or in the fit between who you are and what you are asking for, before the decision has been made, you believed anyway, enough to keep going, enough to put yourself forward, enough to do the work and wait for the outcome. That is now arriving as the yes you were hoping for. I want to speak now about what the approval opens beyond the specific thing that has been approved. Because approval of this kind in this season, for Virgo specifically, is rarely only about the one thing that the approval literally addresses. It is usually also about the door that opens behind the specific yes, the one that leads further than the immediate objective, was designed to take you. What is opening behind this approval is a period of expansion, the specific kind that follows a season of constraint and building and patient accumulation, when the accumulation has reached the point where it produces visible results, rather than only invisible progress in the direction of something that has not yet materialized in a form that the outside world can see and acknowledge. The materialization is here in the form of the approval, and what the approval opens is the version of your life that becomes possible. On the other side of this, yes, that was not possible before it, because the yes was the condition under which the expansion could begin, and the expansion is now beginning. I want to give you something concrete to watch for in the coming weeks, because Virgo needs concrete alongside celebration, and I want to honor that rather than only offering the emotional dimension of what is arriving. Watch for secondary openings, the approvals that arrive in the wake of this one, because yes tends to produce more yes in the specific way that energy compounds when it is moving in a favorable direction. and the first yes creates the conditions under which subsequent yeses become more possible than they were before the first one arrived. Watch for people who notice the approval and who want to be in the orbit of someone who has been approved in the way you are about to be, because success and approval attract the attention of people who want to be associated with both, and that attention brings with it opportunity of the kind that does not arrive in the same form. When the profile is lower, and watch for your own response to the approval, because this is perhaps the most important thing to observe carefully in the days after the yes arrives. The Virgo response to success is sometimes to immediately begin auditing the success for what is not yet resolved, or not yet perfect, or not yet meeting the full standard that the internal critic always has ready as the next level of the bar that has not yet been cleared. Watch for that impulse, and when it arrives, name it, and then redirect from the audit back to the celebration, at least for this season, this one season of having been approved and deserving to simply be in that before the next thing is already being prepared. Whew. Virgo, you have been approved. Not as a consolation, not as not as the result of someone lowering their standard to accommodate what you were offering, but as the natural and earned result of someone who prepared and showed up and delivered at the standard they set for themselves, which is the standard that made the approval not only possible, but inevitable. For someone doing the work that you have been doing, congratulations are in order, and I mean that in the fullest and most complete form of the word. Get ready to celebrate. Not in the future. Now, in the immediate present of someone who has just received the yes they were working toward and who deserves to be fully in the receiving of it before anything else claims the space that this moment deserves. You worked for this, Virgo, in the specific and unperformed way that only, the full cost of, because most of it happened in the quiet and unglamorous spaces where the actual building happens, rather than in the visible moments that others would recognize as effort or sacrifice, or the particular discipline of someone who does not stop when stopping would be understandable, but who continues because continuing is what the standard requires, and the standard does not negotiate. That discipline produced this approval, this yes, this door opening, this celebration that is now not only possible, but required. Celebrate, Virgo. You earned it.